Okay, here we go. Chapter 88. Looks like one long sentence. Restat. It remains, vocative, gentlemen of the jury, ut hoc dubitamus, that we deliberate or we think over, uta, which of the two, uta, is rather, occurrat, who was killed, Sextus Roscius. Which of these two we should deliberate on, gentlemen? Ad quem. So is means he whom by the death in the morte of him has venerated came into divitiae, riches, and he who has come into mendicatus, which is poverty and begging. Is qui antia, he who before was tenuous, it means he had small property and small means, or he who posterior, and he who afterwards, factus sit, has became very extremely in poverty. This is superlative. He who ardens, burning, feritors, bearing avaritia, he's a greed, and is infestus, hostile in suos, in towards his own family members, and is qui, or he who semper, always vixerat, lived ita, thus or so. Ut quaestum noset nollum, as he knows nothing of this quaestum. Quaestum's like income and riches. Autem, however, or moreover, solum quem, he is what has been born forth, peperissity, by his own labour, solum alone, as he brought in his fructum, his fruits, or his wealth has come solum only by his own labour. Sentence goes on. Is qui, he who omnium sectorum, is the most audacious, the most boldest of all the sectors. These are probably legal people. Or he who propter, it's probably on account of or near, fori, that be the genitive of the forum. Here, because of his insolentium, so solentium would be knowing, insolentium means he's not accustomed to the ways of the forum, or judicorum, of the house where they judge things, of the courtroom, you might want to say. Non modo, not only the subcellia, the benches in the courtroom, verum etiam, but even the urbum itself, the city himself, he reformates, because he's from the country, so he dreads these the forums and the courtrooms and the benches and even the city itself. Postremo, so finally, or summing it up here, judices, which we start off with, the vocative gentleman. Id quod ad rem mea sentiam maximat pertinet. So what pertains to the matter ad rem of maxime, especially with the greatest thing, in my opinion, me sententia, utrum, which of them, this is spelt wrong, in imicus, which did it rather, the one imindicus, the one hostile to him, or it's supposed to be filius. So who did this crime? His enemy, or his filius, or his son? 89. Haec to these things you, Eurici, second declension vocative, tote so many, and tanta of such types, if you had essays nanctus, if you had obtained this, or if you had such a defence, you might want to say, in the reo, in the case of the accused. So if you had so many and such types of arguments, you might want to say, for the accused, quam dio, for how long would dicores, would you speak? Quote modo jactares. Jactare means throwing, but it means for boasting. What would be your modo? What would be the limit, basically, on where would you boast or lead your arguments? Tempus Hercule, te citius quam oratio deficeret. Okay, so the time by Hercules, you, Citius, this is part of the Olympic Games quote, it's more quickly, so all up, deficeret being you're deficient in, so the time by Hercules is rather more deficient to you, or missing for you then in speech, oratio. Tempus is a nominative, oratio. So again, by Hercules is an interjection. So city is a comparative. So time by Hercules, rather than your speech, would be deficient. Etonem, for also, or in fact, in singulus rebus, in a single matter, materias est, there's the material, sometimes it means lumber, but it can just mean the material, even written material. Eus modo, in this way, ut that, singulos dies, single days, possus you are able to consumere. So you can consume or eat up a single day with this material just in one of the single points that Cicero has brought up. Nequi ego non possum. For neither am I not able to do this, or you don't think that I can't. Anem 4, non tantum mihi derogo. So he's not being derogative towards himself in such a thing. And although nihil adrogo, we see derogo, which is a derogative manner, and adrogo, which means arrogant. So I don't think me such that I'll be derogative for myself. Don't think I'm so arrogant. That te copious, that you copious quam me than me, do I think. So in English you'd be saying, so I don't think myself to be put down or to be arrogant. Do I think you are posse dicere, that you are able to say these such copious words? I'm still fumbling over it a bit. What I would really want to say is that, I might just check this translation here. I'm not so poor an opinion of myself to think you capable of speaking greater length than I. Yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it. Verum ego, but I, for to stand perhaps, propter, on account of the multitudinem patronorums would be the lawyers, on this multitude of patrons or lawyers, ad numerator, that I should be counted in this flock. I should be one person in this flock. You, the pugna, you might take that as the battle or the fight of Cannae, has fecunded, made you a sat bonum, a good accusator. So there's lots of slaughter there that's being compared to the prescriptions where many of these people have been killed for their property. Multos casos, in the accusative, many slaughters, none at the Trasmenium lake, or the Lake Tremesius, said, but we've seen it at Servilium, which is called the Servilian Basin. It's a reservoir in Rome where the heads of slain accusers were exposed. Okay. Quis ibi non est vulneratus? So, who there has not been vulneratus, wounded by Phrygian iron? Supposedly it's a quote of Ennius. Non necessary est, so it's not necessary to commemorate. This necessary est is one of these compounds that takes the infinitive. To commemorate or remember all of these. There was a Curtius, a Marius, and Deniqui finally a Memmius. Apparently we don't know much about them, but maybe they had their heads cut off at this place here that they were talking about. Cause which now age has evoced, called them away, evoco, from battles. So we have a finally here out of those three, and then we have a postremo, another finally. Priam ipsum senem, Priam the old man himself. Priam is well known. Antistium, whom non modo aetas, not only age but even etiam the legs, prohibit him to fight. So apparently these would be Greek people who had laws and age that prohibited him from fighting. Okay, so yam. And now quos those who propter on account of their ignobilitatem, the people not well known. So here the nominative, no one has nominated them, no one has named these people because of their obscurity. Sensky sunt, so the 600, this is probably just means hundreds and hundreds, because I think I've seen it before where 600 refers to just a huge amount. So there are huge hunters, 600 who are amongst the sicarios, who are amongst the murderers, assassins, and Dave Venicus, that's a nice way of putting them with a preposition, and the poisoners who accuse a band, who have accused people. Qui omnes, who all, as far as it pertains to me, this is a very common phrase again, ad me attenet, Valium, I would want them that they viverant, that they would be living. Nihil enim males, for there's nothing of evil, smooth it out, of dogs, ibi there, quam pluramos, when as many as possible. There's, okay, it will be when per multi, this would be referring to humans because of the eye, many people must be observed. Okay, so that's the gerundive thing going here. In multa, this would be referring to things, and many things, savanda, must be protected or preserved. So there's nothing of evil going on there when very many pluramos canes, very many dogs there. They must be used for watching this very many people, and when there are many things that must be watched. So you can't have too many dogs to guard things. 91. Virum would fit, but as happens, would fit, often, sapi, many things happen. Multa, it's an adjective used substantially. To imprudentibus impetoribus, so looks like dative plural. To imprudent or unknowing generals or leaders. The vis belli, the force of war, and turba, it can be confusion, or the large crowds of people. Many things are molitude, strive to happen, or are the result of such actions. Okay, so while this force of war is bringing all this confusion, dum is while he who is occupied, this can be any particular person, in other rebuses, in other matters, he who administratabats, the summum rerum, so the person who has the most highest power, while he's occupied in other things, and while this confusion and war is going on, they were interior, meanwhile, those who were metaruntering, you might get to know as taking medication, or they were basically, since it says suis volumus, their own wounds, they were healing their own wounds, or this could be taking advantage of the situation or trying to retrieve their own goods, as happened in this case. There are those, tam quam, I think this takes a subjunctive, there are those who, just as if there was a sempiternal nox, there was an eternal night of fusing or flowing through or overtaking of the Republic, taking over the Republic, that these who thus or so forth would robant, they would rush into the tenebris, into this darkness which the war and confusion has caused, and they would miscabant, they would mix up omnia, everything. Like I said, they could be taking advantage of this thing while the whole state's in darkness. A quibus mirrors. A mirrors, I'm wondering or astonished. Things like said and astonished, things that go in your head often take quad to mean that. So I'm amazed that a quibus by these people, that lest any vestiges of the judiciary, any remains of proper legal courts, etc., so lest any of these should survive, that not the benches also that they have combusted. I'm surprised that these people have not burnt up the benches also, lest any vestiges of the law courts esset remain. So semicolon. Nam 4, we have et correlatives for both the accusers and the jury, it's in plural, singular would be a judge, plural is the jury, were sustulent, were out of the way, so because these are out of the way, it would have made them easier to burn up the benches and remain any vestiges of correct law, etc. But hoc commodius, what was very convenient for them was that they lived vixerant this way, ita ut, correlatives, that with all their testes, all the witnesses of their actions, see Cuprin if they had desired to, non possent to interficere. If they'd wanted to, they couldn't have been able to kill all the witnesses. I guess because there was a lot. Nam dum hominum genus eret, qui accuser is non deret. Okay, so I've set up a daily dictionary back from Molior. Strive, endeavour, work at, put in motion, shake or move, rouse, bestir, undertake, start, commence, erect, construct, or attempt or stir up. So this was the endeavour, the work that they'd done. Okay, so 4, while the genus of hominins, while the race of humans, erit shall be, there will not be lacking, de erit, those who make accusations, those who are the accusers, and dum, while the civitas, while the state, or the people in the state, erit shall be, fiant, there should be a judicia, there should be these law courts. Virum at copi dicere, but, as I began to say, at Euricus, also if Euricus, haec si haberent in causa, sees if he had in his case or in his cause, which I have commemorated or which I've mentioned about haec these things, so if Euricus had these same things which Cicero had to speak about, posset, he would have been able to dicere, to speak for quam vis deo, as long as he wanted to, and ego, I, juryman, possum, I am able to, because he thinks the facts are on his side, and we're coming to an end. Sed in animo is, but in my mind it is, quam ad modum antedixi, which quam ad modum, before I've spoken upon, to just a little way in, that he intends to transire, cross over, levita lightly, and tantomodo, and merely I want to prostringere, just graze upon or touch upon, one quam qui rem, and one thing at a time basically he's saying. So he just wants to go through it, speak briefly on these things. Ut omnes intelligent, as everyone understands, me non studio, not from my studium, not from his zeal or desire to accuse, said, but to defend, in his duty to defend. That's why he wants everyone to understand that he's not doing this out of any spite really, but it's his duty to defend, and he thinks things are going well for him, I guess, at this stage, and that's it for the day.